and pray for my wife. She needs it. So it is 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Ms. Derry, would you call the roll, please?
Sure will. A.C. Brown?
Here.
Ralph Meeker?
Here.
Tim Terry is absent. Roger Raymore?
Here.
Steve Tedford?
Here.
He is on the phone. He is not able to make a quorum or vote, but he's participating. Rob Howe?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. If everyone please stand, we will begin tonight's meeting with a prayer led by Trent Hampton from Calvary Temple, and followed by our pledge from Tanya Talkins.
Your wife also did want me to let you know that it just feels like 47 minutes
Yeah,
since you've been
okay,
there.
thank you so much.
Underwater.
Yes. I was waiting on the punchline.
Lord, we love you. Thank you for the blessing of the great city of Greenwood, for so many leaders and citizens who care and want to create an environment, a community that honors you, loves you, and serves all. Lord, we thank you for the prosperity that you've given us. We thank you for so many blessings. We know that every good and perfect gift is from above. And Lord, we know that Greenwood is a great gift. We thank you for the protection that you put upon our leaders, upon our first responders. We ask that you would continue to do this, that you would give us unity as decisions are made, that you would lead, guide, direct, let us live, love others, let us honor you with everything that happens. Lord, we give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. And at this time, I would ask the council's consideration of the approval of minutes for the May 5th, 2025 regular city council meeting.
I make a motion to approve when you're ready.
Second. Motion and second.
Is that Rob?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Raymore?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Thank you. Recognitions and acknowledgments. I asked today in our department head meeting if anybody knew anything, and somebody said very wisely, everything the school does, they do well, so I'm not sure of anything specific. But we recognize you and we acknowledge you, so thank you for being here. Committee reports. There's been a few handed in. I think there was some come in late. I don't think anybody's here from Boys and Girls Club. I know Kenny, I don't see SRCA, Parks Commission, or the Water Wastewater Commission. So we'll move on. And as always, if you don't see something or need more information, let myself or probably more importantly Danielle know, and we can get that to you. Sorry. Citizen Forum. I have one citizen that has signed up tonight, Mr. Ski. So you're up, sir. If you'll just come and give us your name and address, and we've got the council's attention for 5 minutes.
My name's Ski Churosky. I live in 123 West Ithaca Street, Greenwood. What I'm here about is everybody knows what bamboo, anything about bamboo. Well, we have a neighbor in our area that is fencing his whole yard around. There's fences there, and he's building bamboo walls all the way around. He's planting the bamboo. Now, if anybody knows anything about bamboo, it is very invasive. It'll get all the neighbors, it'll do whatever. I have seen it when we burned out a field, come back 2 months later and that field is back strong. I've seen it where it'll pick up a cheese movement. I've seen it, it'll break concrete slabs. This is very, very invasive stuff. You can look this up. You can Google it, which I've Googled it to find out about it. There's 2 states that ban it right now, and that's Florida, New York, and Connecticut. They ban it. The only way that we could ban it is just put a ordinance or something like that to stop it from being grown in Greenwood. If anybody has ever seen this stuff or what it does, in a couple of years it'll be in every house, because when it blooms, the winds blow it and pick it up, and it'll be planted in your yard. Then guess what? Next year, if it grows in your yard, it goes in somebody else's house. It's not gonna be a nice thing. But I don't know any other way to. I talked to the guy, and he says, well, he says, I just wanted my privacy, and I said, so what are you gonna grow back here? You know, who knows? But, so that's what I got to say.
Mr. Ski, I call you Mr. Ski if that's okay.
Say what?
I said I call you Mr. Ski if that's okay.
That's fine.
He came by my office today to talk about it, and I told him that I would kind of double check, and I asked Sonny to look, and I don't think we actually have anything in the ordinance at this time regarding this. I do know recently there was legislation passed, somebody correct me if I'm really bad or wrong, about gardening in front yard. I mean, you can't stop that anymore. This is not a garden, obviously. So I don't know that we have anything. We're going to do a little more digging for you and see if we have anything. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, I think we could look into it and see if there's an issue or what the issue could be. And I understand your concern.
Well, you know, around, you know, it's just a bunch of seniors. We're 80, 90 years old around here.
Yeah.
Around there. And it's going to tear our yards up, doing away with our property values. He's in his 20s, he gives it. So,
I told Mr. Ski that if anybody on here knew, or I mean, probably Councilman Beaker too, and I know Rod's a tree guy, and I don't know if you have any information on.
We have never done anything in the 20 years I've been involved. I've always would like to make an invasive list, because privet needs to be exterminated. Rat bears, the calorie bears, what they're cultivated from. Those calorie bears need to be not sold in Greenwood. They need to be banned in Greenwood. These are my personal feelings. It has nothing to do with what we've ever done. I personally feel like there should be an invasive list of species that shouldn't be propagated in Greenwood, but we, as a group, collectively have never done anything.
I didn't know of anything. I know, I was telling Mr. Ski too, behind, I said it was Taco Bell, but I think it's Sonic. Stan Carter is a good friend of mine. He lives back in that subdivision back there. I know he had a lot of it, really thick. He got rid of it somehow. Probably, I mean, it's his choice, I suppose, but it's gone now. So
I know it's super.
he's got his land all plowed out and ready for planting right now.
You know
And
what?
then once it goes in, I don't know if anywhere it's constructed. Right, probably never mind.
yeah.
I was reading our resolution for codification,
Mm-hmm.
and I've added it down here, and I'll bring it up, because I'm just sitting there listening to Mr. Ski, thinking, this is a guy that needs to sit in on this committee, and where you take time and you gather information and sit down with the administration, because this is basically administration, and develop something like, if that's what we want to go for, like an invasive species list that we're considered not legal in Greenwood. I don't know if that is, we can do that.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I mean, I think you gotta be careful. I mean, everybody collectively calls it bamboo.
Right.
River cane is native to Arkansas, there's a difference.
Oh, yeah.
But there are plants like privet that can take off and then it becomes noxious. And that's what Mr. Ski's talking about, is he's got something that's becoming noxious. And so if you're affecting your neighbors, you're affecting line of sight for people who are driving, you're affecting utilities, that's where this particular species and privet come into play.
Is it, I know you and I talked today, and you said, is it, his back of his property backs up to the back of your property, right? He's
Yeah.
behind you.
Yeah.
Is he planning on both sides?
Both sides.
And the back?
Both sides.
Is he on the corner? Well, he wouldn't be on the corner though.
No, he's
Well, you're on.
120, there's one house,
Okay.
you know, he's on Tucson, and that's it.
Houston.
Yeah, then there's north, well, they're one house down from that 120. And he's on but he's got all of it dug up and ready to plant. And I said to him, I says, he said, well, I'm just gonna put pumpkins in there. He says, that's nothing. I said, no, bullshit. He said,
That's okay.
and I says,
It'll start that way, but.
yeah, I says, anyhow, I says, it's bamboo, and it's gonna go. It's gonna affect me and all the neighbors around here.
It always starts somewhere, and then it'll be in Rogers' yard.
And,
I just like, it's kind of a slippery slope, because when you think of invasive species, non-native invasive species, half the plants that you look out there are non-native. Bermuda grass, I mean, all of that's non-native, so you gotta draw lines. When does that plant become a cause of an issue for somebody?
And that being said,
Yeah, I mean,
We know the Bradford pears become an issue because they take over the meadows, and then they start choking out wildlife and native plants.
well, not just that, I mean, every windstorm comes along, they break off, and then you have to have city employees come pick them up. I mean, so that becomes an economic noxious plant. I mean, you're affecting city employee time having to go pick the damn things up.
I'm not even sure Fayetteville has a list painting something like this. I do know that they, at their tree giveaway, they also have a native plant giveaway, and that if you bring them a root ball of a privet or bamboo or something like that, they'll replace it with native plants to give you a choice to put in your yard. But I hadn't heard anything. We've never had this, we've never crossed this path before.
Well, maybe a good idea to look, Travis is looking to see if we got something in our code right now. And there may be someplace, if we don't address it, there may be a good fit place for it.
I think of the unsightly hazards that the mayor deems something. Is that it? Deems.
1607.
That's the where it was said the mayor does, but as far as specifics, we don't have any specifics in any of our ordinances about types and kinds.
1606 broad enough that the mayor can go over and deem it.
Well, I do want to bring this up. They just now passed an act in legislature that says a municipality cannot say anything about somebody's vegetable gardens. They could say that's my vegetables, because bamboo shoots, bamboo is edible.
It's not a vegetable, correct?
As much as the state legislature has taken away from the municipalities' rights to do anything, I would be real hesitant about trying to do something about a specific plan or something like that. This last legislature just destroyed a lot of municipalities' rights to do anything, and we're reeling from it right now.
Well, maybe Travis can look into that state, the current state codes closer, just to make sure that we did.
This is a list of the 18 that are banned in Fayetteville.
Oh,
ChatGPT is good for you.
Yeah. There's a list of bamboo.
Bradford pear, English ivies, Chinese privet, bush, honeysuckle, tree of Malvern, mimosa, Chinese wisteria. That's part of them.
Yeah.
So currently we have poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac. listed
Well,
as-
those are native.
I think it better be planted around.
Yeah. Could be, there's another one.
Yeah, the last one on that is, rank weeds, all vegetation, any stage of maturity, and then anything that exceeds 6 inches in height, except healthy trees, shrubs, or produce from human consumption grown in a tended and cultivated garden unless such trees and shrubbery by their density or location constitute a detriment, I looked at that wrong, to the health and benefit and welfare of the public and community, or hazard to traffic or create a fire hazard to the property or otherwise interfere with the mowing of said weeds. So we have a little bit in place to make me the bad guy probably, which I have to be sometimes. Unfortunately, in my opinion, unless somebody tells me something different, it would almost have to be where it becomes that first before I could act upon it. Could not keep him from planning it necessarily, but as you said, once it's planted, it's hard to get rid of. So let me say this: we will continue, and thank you for having that on your phone. You're kind of handy to have around sometimes. But we'll continue to look at other cities that have some things in place, like Fayetteville or Northwest, whoever that was, and look at our own ordinance and see if there's something we could look at. And maybe just a visit to your neighbor. If he's new, I need to introduce myself
I've
anyway.
already made a visit.
Sir?
I've already made a visit.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
He's talking about extension.
Yeah, I'm talking about me maybe introducing myself, and I don't mean it as a scare tactic.
That might work.
Okay, we'll look into it further. I know that's not the answer you're necessarily looking for, but we'll see what we can do.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you.
For some of y'all wanted the summer municipal league conference next week, is that something y'all could investigate then?
Yeah, sure.
Mayor, there's a list of Arkansas plants that are invasive that the Cooperative Extension Office recognizes, so we've got that to.
Okay. Maybe
The
not.
Bible.
Maybe
It
not.
is on it.
Oh, is it? Okay. So we may be able to do something.
Maybe if we couldn't paint it, we maybe could, say you had to enforce your perimeter, dig down 12 inches, put a metal
To keep
plate around your whole property, and that may keep people from deciding to do it in the first place.
Yeah. Okay.
I like you just come up with a list like Fayetteville does, and support it with the,
What they do.
NRCS is plant list.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Here's the best news I've had in a long time. Tom's not here tonight. I know he's watching, so this is why I'm saying. No, I'm just joking. He is, wherever he went, it's a quiz bowl thing, he and his wife do. So there's no, I think he emailed everybody some financial statements, if you will, and I wouldn't have the answers if you've got questions on it, but please reach out to him on that. So I'm sure wherever he's at right now, he's working on it. So, but and we thought we were going to do a little humor tonight. Chief Brad was going to sit over there at his desk and have a pointer.
Everything's good. The economy's good, everything's good.
There you go. Still sexy.
We're still all red now.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was telling somebody today on the phone that Tom has been in a fairly good mood. We're all been kind of surprised around here lately because he's actually seeing a little bit of betterness, if you will. He may not say that in the report, but he told us that there was things were looking up a little bit.
Because it was a lot of red.
No, I'm sure.
More
Yeah.
stuff in parentheses.
Yep. Oh,
No
yeah.
negatives.
Yeah. Agenda additions, we have none this morning unless council has any to add. Yes, sir.
Just from the water and wastewater commission meeting, they were talking about the sanitation. They're having, their kind of non-collectibles,
Yes.
write-offs. They wanted to kind of discuss that.
Okay.
See what we can do something about that.
Okay. Go add that to number 5. Okay.
So the water sewer collections,
For just the sanitation.
Is this what we're trying to recoup? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, it's just that, right now, we're the ones that are just eating all the, non-collectibles, writing them off, there's
Right.
nothing's coming back onto the cars, maybe that's what we're going to look at. So
Okay.
that the cars should have some responsibility.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll add that as number 5. Anybody else have anything, council? If not, we'll move on. The first on unfinished business is position fulfillment for code enforcement. We had a little bit of discussion last month and tabled it. I don't really have a lot to add. Like I said, Tom's not here tonight to really go into any plan of action to finance this position or pay for this position other than what you heard him say last month. I just, for what it's worth, don't expect you to make a decision tonight, but what it's worth, I'd like for you to really consider getting this position on board, or having us get this position hired out and somebody in place. Danielle, as always, I've pushed a lot of this on her. She and I go, before at lunch, we go drive around a little bit, do a little code enforcement of our own or inspection. And there's probably, she's not here either, she's on vacation, but I think she's probably mailed out 20 or 25 letters just since last month. This is all regarding just grass. This is nothing other than grass. So it's the busiest time, if there is it is the busiest time for a code enforcement officer. But as we get into other things, I think it's just important that we consider getting somebody in there that's what they're focused on, because I think Mr. Plummer has a comment or two to say about some of this, that's how important this is. So again, not asking for a vote necessarily, just for everybody to consider. Maybe when Thomas gets back, we can talk more about how to pay for it. You got something, Travis?
Well, I just would add to that over the last month, I was looking at ordinance 0329, which is an ordinance regulating signs within the city limits of the city of Greenwood. That's a 21-page ordinance. And once I went through it, I started driving around town. There are so many signs that are out of compliance. It would take a person, I mean, she talked about it would take a full-time person probably at least 6 months, maybe a year, to fix all that. And that's just one of many ordinances that they are responsible for enforcing. And so that was just my takeaway from it. It's a long ordinance, not bad, but a lot of non-compliance.
That was 329?
Yes, sir.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on this topic? If not, we'll move on. Yeah, I'd like to take a look at this.
Motion to table.
Council, got a motion?
30 days?
Yes.
Second. Motion second to table.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Thank you. Number 2 is planning ordinance to rezone from R1 to C2 property located at 300 South Coker on its second reading.
Mayor, Councilman Sterry, this is the second reading of the request to rezone from R1 to C2, the property located at 300 South Coker. This is the last lot before you get to the intersection of phase 1 of the bypass, and the next lot is the Pink Bud. This had a resident on there. Our comprehensive plan shows that Coker should be commercial. I think there's maybe 2 residents left on Coker from Farmers Bank to the daycare out on Coker. So as they come to us to change or something like that, they should normally go to a C2. This is a prime example of it. The gentleman that owns the property wants it, would like to see it rezoned so that if something comes along that wants to establish a business there, he'll already have it zoned. And so I'm asking for the approval of the second reading.
I'll make a motion we approve the second reading.
Second.
Title only.
Have a motion and a couple seconds. By title only.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Unanimous. An ordinance amending ordinance number 23-10 for the purpose of rezoning certain property in the city of Greenwood, amending the official zoning map of the city of Greenwood for other purposes.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Bill. Number 3 is city attorney, resolution to establish codification committee, and it's also tabled from the previous meeting.
Yeah, so we already discussed last month what this was about. I think Rod said he had.
I'd just like to, I'm looking at section 2, Travis, where it's membership, and I don't know how constrained membership really is, but I'd like to open it up for Greenwood citizen or Greenwood citizens to sit on it, to give input, kind of like him, who's got a problem and he wants to explain himself. He could do it within the confines of that committee, and be part of that committee as far as I'm concerned, and then push it to us, and they can kind of go through the weeds of the problem, kind of get a. I also had a question on, I didn't see anywhere on there, you know, putting a role of who calls, who and when calls the meetings, who calls the meeting, and when the meeting's called, who chairs it or organizes it, or is it kind of a rotation by need, or I just didn't see where it was clearly defined, because you know, it's like you start this and everybody kind of thinks, well, I have something I need to go, but I don't know if I can call this meeting, or if I can say this is what I want to go through. I kind of found this problem. Who do you go to? Is it mayor? Is it? It doesn't quite say.
I would think Charlotte would be the one. Charlotte deals with ordinances all day long, and I think that she should be the chair for sure.
So, and that's perfect fine with me, because Charlotte's pretty sharp.
I think so.
So if we put Charlotte, if we put the city clerk as the person that kind of organizes the meeting and calls the meeting.
It sounds like we need to add a section that says meeting structure.
Meeting structure. So it would be the
Organization
clerk
of meetings.
who calls it and when they call it.
Do you want us to add on to that and bring it back?
And
Be section 5.
and does anybody see a problem with citizens sitting on here?
Well, I don't, I guess one thing I see with all that is to me, it's not a thing to open up new things that you want to add or things that are already. I think it's to try to clarify and concise, condense our existing ones, you know, and that really, that this forum right here is for, new ordinances or things that we haven't addressed before. This is like existing things. But I think to have citizens on there still to have their input to say if it's, clarifying or whatever, if they agree with, I don't mind that. I don't think it's a thing to bring up new stuff.
You don't mind putting some meeting structure, maybe the city clerk?
Normally, when I do an ordinance, Charlotte has the last word on it. I forward it to her. She goes through it and she looks for my mistakes and corrects mistakes, and we go back and forth, and then once she is satisfied with it, then it proceeds forward. So like I said, I think she's the natural one that would be.
That makes sense, and she picks up on a lot of problems.
Any changes are gonna have to come back to the city council, so maybe the citizen forum is probably a more appropriate place for folks to voice their concerns or proposed changes.
And I know Hunter right now is looking at a lot of the old ordinances, and so those would be things that we could work on to bring them up to date, shorten them possibly. We can look at the sign ordinance and see if there's something that we can do with that, but with new ordinances too, we'd be looking at new and old ordinances. I mean, we can't do all of them in one meeting, but Charlotte can pick out some, or Hunter could say, hey, Charlotte, can we review these 3 ordinances this month at the next meeting, and work it that way, and clean up some of the ordinances and make sure that we haven't made a mistake when we brought out a new ordinance and we didn't kill all of the old ordinances and things like that. And so I think that would be the way to proceed with it. And again, that sign ordinance, Daniel McDaniel and I worked on that for a year because of all the portable signs. That's what kicked that off. We had over 20 portable signs between Highway 71 and the square. And now you don't see portable signs anymore. That's what that ordinance did. But there's some things that we need to look at that, we, like I said, we could streamline it or whatever, but we don't want to pull the trigger on something that's going to affect something else. And that's why the group together, we can look at the long range effect of an ordinance would be.
I say just add some structure to it, send it back to us.
Okay, yeah, and I agree. If y'all didn't want Charlotte on there as chair, I would ask Sonny to appoint Hunter from the planning department and make him the chair, because the two of them
But either or.
Either or, but that's fine with me. And as far as the meeting time, I would say,
Or both.
Yeah.
Well, we can only have one chair, but everybody working together, that,
yeah,
and I mean, if you
I'm
work
fine
together,
with
it's
either or,
real.
just so somebody is designated, or a meeting may never get called.
and as far as the meeting time, sorry,
No,
Mayor,
you're fine.
I would suggest first or third Mondays, somewhere between 1 and 5 p.m., because I'll already be here.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, can we put that in there? Who did this come from? You or Charlotte or?
I think Charlotte drafted it.
Huh?
Charlotte drafted
Yeah,
that.
she did.
Yeah, we need to tell her, because she's.
Yeah, she's out right now.
She's coming right back, she got back and get something. I'd put, Hunter as co-chair, that way if Charlotte's ever on vacation or.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Keep in mind, another big function of this committee would be, and it's especially relevant this term, because here in about another month, month and a half, 2 months, all the legislation that got passed is going to go into effect, and there's a ton of it that affects our city code.
Yeah.
And when Hunter and I first talked about this idea, that would be the first line item of business that we need to do, is to sit down, look at our code in its entirety, look at the new laws that have come down, and see what we need to do with our code.
No, because they've eliminated a lot of our rights as a city to do anything.
Yeah, it's
So
gonna-
we've got ordinances that contradict that, so we need to go back and make sure that we're not contradicting a state statute.
Yeah, it's going to greatly affect our city code here in the very near future. So that was part of the idea.
So you're just asking for structure, how
Structure, time, not like Travis's time when he's already available. And then,
that'd be 4 or 5.
yeah, the city clerk organizes the meeting for, and or the planning board. What is higher?
Building,
What's his title?
building inspector.
Building inspector.
Okay.
Anyways, what about this?
Well, Commissioner, we're putting you in charge, either you or Hunter, building inspector, either or, and the time would be when Travis is here, the ones you call the meeting.
Yes, yes, yeah, first and third Monday,
Between 1 and 5, he said.
1 to 5,
1 through 5.
Let us come up with some more structure
1 p.m. to 5
and
p.m.
come back to you and
Just
just
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
firm it up.
I'll think of something, I don't know.
Halfway across.
More slots. Anyway, there was another question I had with this. Oh, yeah, the citizen representative that you wanted to, are we putting that in there or not?
I've decided not to.
Not?
Right.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okey dokey. So it was just meeting organization section mainly, and the details of it. That's really the only
Cool.
thing.
Chairman,
Your chair.
Yeah.
Go. Okay.
Or that's my
Yeah.
City attorney, co-chair?
thought. No.
Oh,
no.
okay. Okay.
We're just answering the questions, who and when, you read the document.
You want to table this and let's bring it back with the complete?
Table. Make a motion to table.
Second. Motion second to table?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yeah.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Number 4 under new business is Parks Resolution to authorize application for outdoor recreation matching grant for inclusive park. Casey?
We're applying this grant cycle for a matching grant, $250,000 for the inclusive playground over in Westwood. I think give this a shot again. It seems like the way things are going, this is going to be in our favor this year.
Where to say where in here does it mention our share? It's a 50-50 match.
It's a 50-50 match, yeah.
And you said 250,000, but it's not in here. Or am I missing it?
Well, it's up to 250,000. 250 is the
So
max.
it's a blank check up to the amount of 250,000.
Yes, sir, that's correct. That's correct.
Just same as we've always done.
We passed, the last time we passed this was in 2023. This is the exact
Yeah, there was an ordinance or a sort of resolution that came directly from them that had what you're looking for, 50/50, up to, is that one?
This is what they changed to now.
Oh, this is new? Okay.
Yeah, this is.
So same thing, they just
Office
revised it.
outdoor renovation. Yeah.
They don't have dollar amounts.
It's very vague. It doesn't.
Yeah.
like, it
They are
doesn't-
vague.
It doesn't give you a blank to even mention the project you're working on.
Yeah. So it's the same thing, they just revised it to make it look,
And I'm fine with it, we've always done well with it. We started, I think the first one we got was for the promenade,
it is.
and then we've gotten since then. It's free money, it's just.
Exactly.
But you're saying you're going to direct it for the inclusive part?
That's correct.
That part is somewhere in here, I think we put it in here because I said we've got to have somewhere in here what.
That was a point of contention last year when we passed the same resolution.
That's it, for us, it wasn't much improvement.
Did I not put it in there?
Don't see it. Are y'all leaving it open like this to where it could be, you could be flexible and you could move it?
No, this grant, you're locked in.
It'll be written for the inclusive part.
That's correct.
Which is
Yeah, it
fine.
doesn't say. So you want to name the inclusive park in here?
I would like to do that,
Let's add that.
just for continuity, I guess.
We'll add it above somewhere where it makes sense because it says mentioned above.
And this one still does refer to those utilities. You have overhead utilities over there? Any?
I would have to double check, but I don't think so.
Okay, I mean, because it talks about having to bury those like we did in Bell Park too, so.
We just
I know
worked
you-
our way around that on the splash
Yeah,
pad, so.
I know you did on splash pad.
That sure looks ugly.
Is it a requirement in the grant
It's a requirement for your project site.
for this grant? Okay,
Yeah, it's,
so it's got to stay in there.
Where you're so close to the school. This is up above Westwood, right?
That's correct.
You're so close to school, it wouldn't, sure it wouldn't be that far.
I don't even know if we would have the need for electricity at this park unless future development causes us to, or we build a bathroom facility.
I make a motion that we,
Well, before you do that, are you gonna include the, up to, the dollar amount in there along with the, we're referring to the inclusive part?
sure,
Okay.
I make a motion that
But
we
can
don't.
you- or can you, if this came from them, can you change this?
Like for the project?
No, the resolution.
Certain aspects you
No,
can't.
we can change this,
Okay.
yeah. They send it to you.
I don't know why they changed it, that's weird.
Well, they sent a couple of different examples, did
There's
they?
been a lot of changes.
Kind
in
of
that
said,
department.
do one like these.
Okay.
So up to 250,000
Up
it
to
speaks?
two, yeah, up to 250,000 and adding the inclusive part.
Where is the 250,000? Where does it belong? Which, whereas? The big one? In there? Because it says the plans
Yeah.
for such recreation have been prepared and the price therefore has been established. Then it has all that other stuff. So you think it's in that big part? Okay, we'll do it where it makes sense.
Yeah.
Up to 250. When we say up to 250, that means we're,
Means we're writing a blank check up to.
we are, right, okay, got it. All right, so,
If
Rod
you get the
still-
whole grant, you're gonna write check
still-
for 250.
maybe another thing.
Yep.
Second.
Is it clear enough, or you need me clear?
Yeah, no, good. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Unanimous?
Thank you.
Hey, real quick, can you give an update on where you stand on other, like donations and all that for that park?
Right now, we're just a shade over 400,000. We have another large grant, with the Deegan Foundation that we're expecting to hear word from anytime, and it's for 40,000,
What was the estimated?
around 900.
Both of them?
This would get us easily through the phase one, if we got this grant.
Cool. Long time coming, that was, I don't know if you all remember, that property was actually donated to the city for a fire station. And years ago, when I was a parks director, it was voted on to not to do the fire station and allow it to be used for a park. At that time, we were looking at the dog park, so You continue to get things done that I couldn't, so kudos to you. Okay, number 5 is water wastewater collection. What I've got down, Mr. Brown.
Yes, at the last Water Wastewater Commission meeting, they were talking again about we're using a third-party agency to, to send the uncollectibles to try to see if they have a chance of trying to collect any, of the unpaid bills and stuff. But they did make a note there that, out of all the fees and stuff, the sanitation, was 19% of the uncollectibles in there, and they were just saying that, we're really doing this, kind of just as a service. I mean, we're taking, I think, 50 cents for a processing fee, but I mean, we're the ones that are just collecting it, for basically for car sanitation, just sending them the bill. And they were kind of just saying, is that something that really, if cars was doing the billing themselves and everything, then they would be responsible for, any uncollectibles and stuff. They said, why should it be falling back necessarily on us, or is that something that we should really consider, in the upcoming, when the cards contract, comes up, if we should, address that and stuff. And I was thinking, that it is something that, we should do. It's right now, they said and I don't know, it said it's April of 2025. I'm sorry, I don't know if this is a 12-month, total, or just a year-to-date total, but it was, $14,822, which again, they said that represented 19% of all of the uncollectibles, which, right now, have a total of $76,378. And so, I thought they made, the commission made a valid claim about that, something that we're just basically doing this, as a service for cars, doing the collection and then just sending them just one bill and stuff, and I think that, that we certainly should address that, the next contract cycle to say, what role that they have to play in that and stuff.
Well, here's what's odd to me, because we pay the monthly bill to cards for all of the trash service. And we do take, from the customer, whatever portion that we calculated needs to be taken. So I don't know why we would really owe cards any money. Because they're already good.
They get
Well,
paid.
no, we're saying
that.
We're incurring that $14,000. We're eating $14,000.
Yeah, we're paying cars, the total amount, but we're not necessarily collecting that total amount. And so that's what we're saying.
Is the plan though to
That's
go
what I was
after
gonna
folks that
say.
are not paying their water and sewer bill?
That's the plan is, yeah.
So that-
normally we just, that's the only time we just write it off.
Yeah, that suit would include the sanitation fee because it's all in one bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah, it'll all be in that. But
But
I was
it's
just
just
saying,
lost everywhere.
at the next contract, they're just saying, that'd be something that, maybe that we really shouldn't be collecting it all, something that it really should kind of make fall back to cars.
You have something, Tony?
All I was gonna say is, because I dealt with this in Ozark, is it goes back to whatever contract you have with cards. I assume you have a cards contract, and they kind of got sideways over there, and we just started sending them what we collected. That might not be what the contract said, but, because you are not just not collecting it, you're out that money. And so I think you just have to go back to your contract and see what you said, because they're coming up with how many residents they say has trash, so I don't even know how you tell cards every month how many. So I'm just saying, you have to look at all that and see how cards, because they're just billing you whatever number they think.
Yeah, we talked about this before, even the last time they were here for bid process or talking to us, and Jason was here, and he kind of just went, no, that's not what we do. So I think it's a good bargaining tool, if you will, to say, we like your service, we like this, but here's how this needs to go. And see how that.
I don't understand why we would even owe cards. I can't get that in my head.
Because they send the city a bill, and then.
Yeah, we've paid them.
But the
We
water
paid that.
department is
Right.
paying.
No,
the
we
bill.
don't.
Get paid by everybody, is what you're saying.
But the water department's paying the bill, and they're out the money, and
we have like 3,900, water users, So CAR's saying, add us $15 or whatever the current rate is, times 3,900. We pay that every month to CARs, but we're not necessarily collecting that from the people that, they're saying, oh, I didn't pay my water bill,
Oh, so the correct amount is spread out between everybody.
Cars is still getting their money.
Yeah, they are.
We're paying CARs.
That is what I thought.
But when
was
somebody,
wrong. You
leaves
said that.
town or moves away, they don't pay their last water bill, then they're not paying their last sanitation bill either, And so we're having to absorb that.
Do y'all send like a move out notice? We used to send them how many people, every month, active accounts.
To cards, you mean?
Yeah, and that, again, it may go back to your contract, and I think it said something like that in the contract. So, you kind of have to tell them, not just because you have that many meters, but, you've got this many customers. You're still not gonna win.
Yeah, I don't know that communication exists. Nobody's here.
Because that's how your 50 cents comes up, is how many, so that would lessen, but you actually have to tell them, so then they'll bill you for what you tell them are active
Otherwise, they don't know.
accounts.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just gonna do.
And I think the water office does do that.
Okay.
They keep a count going and
Yeah.
then they communicate it back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't know how often. It's supposed to be monthly.
Whatever the I was supposed to say, that's the way the contract. And then maybe renegotiate that part.
So what do you want us to do tonight, Nancy?
I just really wanted to, I told the commission out of Greenwood, to the council, say that was to me a valid claim, that the water commission doesn't need to, really be absorbing that, either and stuff. And so I said, certainly we'll look at it maybe the next contract round and stuff, and also just make the council aware that it is going on and that it's.
When we bring the contract back next month for sure, for everybody to review. And then Tom, he was here, he probably know where I was top of his head, but we'll have that for you to look at. See.
If I remember right, July is when we renewed the contract.
Yeah, I think so.
So we need to probably sit down with them before.
Yeah, do what?
Probably
Well,
got 30
I can represent
days.
anyone.
I thought you guys insisted on it.
Yeah.
So maybe round it to 30 days.
When we first did it, it was like 3 years.
Okay.
But I think the council as a whole said, no, we need this to do different. And I may be wrong.
Will they come back to us with their
Price increase.
price increase?
Every year.
I'll add it to the next agenda, the sanitation contract.
Yep.
A copy of it. Yes.
Okay. No vote, you're just looking for
Yes.
this information? Okay. Thank you, sir. That is actually the last item on the agenda. We don't want to break any records or anything. But it is. It is. We'll move on to department reports and questions from council.
Parks?
Parks.
How's the progress on the splash pad?
I had the chemicals balanced this afternoon. I'm gonna take a look in the morning just to make sure everything's 100%. And then if everything's on the oven up, I'll announce that it's open and ready for business.
What about the street going to it? Is that street, that's another part of the street?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, we have a street being built.
There is.
Do you have any idea?
We ran into a groundwater issue on the south side,
Yeah.
and it's sloughing off, and so we can't get the base there that we need. So they're coming back to us with a change to build a drain, kind of like a French drain, to send it all the way down from that point. You can tell if you drive up there where basically where the curb stops on the south side is where the water. Tim said that when we fracture those rocks, he said that causes the groundwater. And so, of course, there were rocks moved during this process, and so that's where that water's coming from. We made sure it wasn't a water line, it didn't have any fluoride in it. So it's just groundwater.
So if you hadn't been up there, it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, well, I walk it about 5:30 in the morning.
We went up there today and had, Casey had the water flowing and,
We played it.
yeah, we had to keep the mayor out of it but it's a beautiful facility. It's one of those promises made, promises kept.
And why
But
is
the
Casey
road
so
bed is
dirty
secure,
about it?
Rod. The road bed is secure, it's well enough to drive on. We'll just have to,
So he can open it up and people will just drive on up there.
absolutely,
On
yeah.
the
There's nothing
base
wrong,
of the road.
it's just not complete.
And then when they get to where they finish the curb and gutter on that south side.
Yep, then they can lay
Go
asphalt.
in and lay asphalt. So, but it may be further into the summer.
It could be, yeah,
Until you get rid of that water.
that's right.
And don't y'all have some plans for lighting on that?
Did you talk to, yeah, you talked to Arkansas Valley, didn't you?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
So
Arkansas Valley or Pepco?
Well, it's both, isn't it?
SWEPCO. I don't know what the original quote was for the lighting that we had from the engineer, but SWEPCO is able to provide, they're not decorative, but they are not ugly, street lamps on the electric poles that they put up through the park along the road. And they're charging us $5,000
Total.
in and out, turnkey.
So how much would you be saving from the decorative lights?
Probably $95,000.
Yeah,
Is that enough to build the trail on it?
That would be more money we could put towards trail, absolutely.
I remember $100,000.
Yeah, I mean, so if those are five, then it'd be 95,000 that we'd be saving.
But again, at 6 o'clock in the morning, I count about 20 people up there trying to walk and run and recreate.
I think those would work perfectly for that purpose.
Seth told me the other day that they would do a good job of illuminating the road. They just would not, SWEPCO would not be able to specifically engineer them to where you know exactly what your wash is going to be. He told me that they would be willing to put an additional pole at the top of our project, all for the 5,000.
I think it changes at the house, doesn't it?
I'm not sure.
We had to move a pole up there, so we were working with both. So I think it starts there and goes Arkansas Valley and the rest of it. So we may have to play both sides on that when we get further along.
We can do that.
Hey Rod, those lights that we put on the trail, it was estimated 80 feet. Those LEDs,
They look good.
They do look good.
and it wasn't very expensive.
That was a really good project.
That was it was a little over $700,000 for all that.
That really works
Related
good.
to the ones that you guys wanted on council originally, you could double that.
Chief,
Rod, if you remember last year when we were in Springville, right there at Zion Park, talking about how great it was to actually see everything above us because of their light ordinance and things dim or at least low. I'd hate to put a bunch of street lights up there in Bill Park. That's where people go to look at the stars and stuff at night, things like that. So be conscious of what we put up there.
Well,
Be bright.
Jared makes a
They
good
put some
point on
stuff
that.
out fairgrounds and lighting up Kansas from here. Right now, it's bright.
You know, the lights you put on the trail, they just light the trail, so it doesn't bother people's houses.
Yeah, they're awesome.
And it's not ugly poles.
Exactly.
There's that whole town, there was a, Zion National Park had a rule that made all the county around it have different lights and stuff. I don't know how they were able to do that, but you could see stars everywhere there. And we were stopping at that scout trip we were on. That's pretty cool.
When we continue to put poles up in the park, what does that do to us when we apply for those grants that don't want poles?
You're asking me? Well, the areas that we put the poles up would be really hard to squeeze any projects into now. Very slender areas, we'd be putting them right on top of water and sewer lines too.
so that's why I was asking about over at the Palousas Park, one of the restrictions is that you bury until, in order to be eligible for that grant, then all utilities have to be underground. That's why we did what we did at Bell Park years ago, so. But like you said, able to skirt that a little bit, I guess.
We've had 2 site visits at Westwood too, and they didn't mention any issues with overground power, or above ground power.
That weird?
Westwood,
Oh,
where that new park would go.
yeah.
So all new construction requires underground. We're requiring everybody else to do it.
Right. I had a question on the streets.
I'm gonna say too, before you move on to streets, well, it is kind of, it is street. Sorry, it is absolutely street. So I grabbed, if you will, at both companies that's dealing with this street up there. Because as you know, citizens really, to be honest with you, have been very patient on Main, for the most part. They complain a little bit, as they should. And so I had some drive time the other day. I called both companies and told them what I thought about things. Because as you drive up there, and I don't know if they've taken care of it today, Jeff, or not. Well, I didn't see it today.
Yeah, it's there.
Was it?
Right there where it ends, there were hay bales right there.
Okay, I missed it. So all that was gone. They removed the silt fence and the hay bale, straw bale, whatever. And we're gonna get right back to where we were. In fact, we were after the last rain. And I know it's gonna continue until we get paid. But to me, they just ignored it. So they're back now. That's good. Go ahead. Sorry. That was all I was gonna say, is that we're addressing those issues for those residents that live at the bottom.
Well, before we go to streets, I've got one more question for parks. Hey, Casey, where are we at on the trail to the top of that park?
Right now I have easements being drafted. And as soon as those are drafted, I'll start approaching homeowners to have them sign.
Timeline, maybe?
Travis, do you have a timeline on those easements?
They look like they're done.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I had your blessing on before I took over, had them signed.
Where is it?
The trail at the top of Bell Park.
I would, yeah.
You're talking about from where the pavement
To
is?
pave it,
going-
to pave the rest of it? Okay.
Most of that is Cinda's, isn't it?
I would, yeah, how many, most of that is somebody.
How many are there? Property owners?
3 permanent and 2 construction.
Who else does that, just, you know?
Right behind the oaks, there's a couple in there.
Holmes Construction, that's a permanent and a construction. There is two homeowners. I don't know their names right off the top of my head. I don't remember Lois's last name, but I know that she owns Denim and Pearls. That's a construction.
So are those homes down at the back of Crooked Creek, and they cross there? Is that where you're? Okay. And then the rest.
And then we had a bunch going through Cinda.
Okay, so we're close to starting?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I have easements, then it's just a matter of putting it out for bid.
I've had a couple people ask me.
I understand.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Did you have something else for street?
I was gonna ask streets about, over by Westwood, how are they coming on that?
We've run into another water problem over there as well.
We're just a little tiny.
Yeah, that, of course, you know, that stays wet over there a lot. It did. That edge, the southern edge there as well, didn't pass the roll test. And so we have to do some more stabilization. It depends on how much more rain you get. If we get solid, then get it paved, then we'll be okay.
Well, we know that, a couple of years ago, the worst rain we ever got in Greenwood was this week.
That's right.
So, if we can get past the next week or so, maybe it'll start drying.
Next week.
So we're supposed to start on the drainage project up on Spruce. We're having our pre-con next week. for that, for the wall, yes, and then we're also having our pre-con for the Bell Road, Denver Street overlay. So that'll get kicked off on Tuesday, and I think the other one's on Thursday.
Are we keeping those folks aware of the spruce?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm texting them. Can't think of his name right now.
That's fine, they were here
Yeah.
together. Anything else for department head?
I just want to say, I'm not pushing, I'd rather get a good job. I'd rather wait till the middle of the summer if that's what it took to get a good job.
That's kind of what they're telling me right now.
Yeah, because if we push them and they go in there and slam it in, we're stuck with it and we're fixing
Yeah,
problems.
we're the
for
ones that
rest
gotta
of our
fix
life.
it, so, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm just curious. I'm not pushing. So, just curious where we're at.
I have one thing for Chief Hobbs. You know, I had a situation, this past week regarding one of the residents at the Greenwood Retirement Center, and I just put a call into Chief Hobbs, and he took care of it immediately. Sent a couple of officers over there to, and handled it. So I just want to say, appreciate you, Chief Hobbs, for the job you did.
I'll give you a quick, well, I guess I can wait till this morning. Let me give you a quick update on our, I don't know if anybody's noted, I know you know them because Tim put out a text that they added, he said 11, they added 10 months to our projected date on phase 1 of our bypass. And I said to him, how do you know, where did you see that before he could answer me? I drove around the square and there it was on the sign. So all the construction signs in town now, the date's been changed from August 26th to June of 27. And I'm like, what happened? Nobody notified us or anything. So I started calling. I called the foreman over here, Forstman first, and he said, I don't know, I was just told to change the sign. So that was interesting. And so I started calling RDOT, and I didn't want to start at the top. I started going up the ladder, and 2 people had no clue. And I finally got a hold of Ken Wilson today with RDOT, and he basically told me in a nutshell, and we stopped there for a second and say everything that I've heard from RDOT all along is they're ahead of schedule. So that was a shock to see almost a year added to that projected date. And Ken said that, of all things, that I thought the bridges were, building overnight, but he said they got behind on scheduling of things on the bridges. And even though one looks complete, there's still some concrete to be poured. So they've just fallen behind on the bridge part. And I asked him too, just to verify, because I sure hated to think that we had stalled in any way on any sort of relocation, utilities, or anything. And he said, no, not really. He said, we know you guys are doing the best you can, but we've had issues with fiber optic companies not getting information to them soon enough from their engineers to get that moving. So all of a sudden, we're looking at June 27, which is not horrible, I suppose, but it was not what I was hoping. And then he said, now, it doesn't mean that we can't go back and change that sign. And he goes, do you want me to change the sign, Mayor? And I said, well, I don't want to lie to the public. I said, but if at the end of the day, the bridges are finished like they should be, then yeah, I'd love for you to put back something. But that's the reason it's changed. Evidently nothing we've done to a degree, and certainly more about the bridge construction. So even though this one down here seems like it's coming up overnight, so anyway, that's that. And now he did say this, that our requesting engineering on this tunnel, the possibility of a tunnel, he didn't say it slowed us down, but he said it's adding to the list. So he assured me that we should get something back fairly quick on some real numbers. He gave me, I think I told y'all, $300,000 to $500,000 on the possibility of a tunnel. And he said that may be somewhat accurate, but we'll get you some engineering done and get you something else on that. We talked about lighting and that sort of thing too. So hopefully within the next 2 weeks, or certainly by next month, I'll have you something to look at and say, here's what a tunnel would cost. The contractor, and I think I told you last time I did ask if the city could somehow in kind over there and do some of that work ourselves. RDOT said that's a possibility. They asked Forest Green goes, yeah, we'd rather not do that. If you want to do it, let's do a change order. We'll build it ourselves. So that's pending. I'll get you that information next, hopefully. I would think about it for sure for next month. So that's what I've got.
Thank you for checking on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was afraid that change was, I thought it was going to be because of the.
That's what I was thinking.
I thought still,
Yeah.
it's worth doing, you know.
Yeah, he mentioned it, but he didn't act like that was the whole up, so.
Of course, when Daniel had that, the guy that was growing had that aerial view, you know, I mean, it's, you kind of saw it there at a bird's eye view, and there really is, that's a major,
That's huge.
a major construction effort, you know, there, what they're trying to accomplish and stuff.
And we were able to take, MPO met here, what, 2 weeks ago? Last Thursday. We hosted them down here in City Hall, and then we took all of those folks on a trolley tour. So the trolley's getting used. We took them, Jim Reynolds driving, always worried about that, but Jim drove us over onto the bypass. We didn't get to get on it. They said, probably can't get on the bridge just yet. So we drove down on one end, talked about it, went to the middle, talked about it, and then went on the other end. And then we took those folks out through town to 71, showed them this new center, and back where, all the way back in on 10, where we're going to widen the 5 lanes out there. So that was everybody was very impressed with.
Who's this MPO?
Metropolitan Planning Organization. I happen to chair that now, haven't been for a while, so it's Wapatiti, mayors, councilmen, planning. Yeah, it's all about planning for the ordinance, but mostly geared with Tracy.
We work with the highway department.
Yeah, RDOT's here,
RDOT.
ODOT's comes. It's a pretty cool group.
It's considered a regional planning.
Yeah,
Yes.
And Northwest Arkansas's got something similar.
yeah,
It takes up the whole county.
RDOT is actively pursuing the easement on phase 2 also.
yeah. And I told you, sorry, thank you, Sonny. We were the first. They're starting at our place and working their way back on these easements and right of ways. So we've got signed the papers on ours. We're going to hopefully get a check here in a few weeks. And then the lady that handled ours, they've got several people doing it, so she's kind of scattered between the center and back into town. I think she had like 8, and then some of the other RDOT employees are doing the rest of them. So they're pursuing, as Sonny said, they're pursuing all that. I joked with 3 of the RDOT guys, and I said, you know, I'm kind of a positive thinker. Please tell me that the extension is because you're going to go ahead and just go wide the rest of that. And they all went, yeah, we'd like to tell you that, but that's not really. They have not let that out for a bit. Now, I still believe that they're not going to, I don't think there'll be a big pause, to be honest with you. But we'll see. They're not promising me that.
And APO, that's where that bike trail going
Yeah.
to Chaffee Crossing, they're working on that. Where, is there anything new on that? Your son was working on that, wasn't he?
Yes, I'm not sure, Craft and Tull, you know, Ellie's not with them anymore. Michelle took that, his booth was his boss, and their son had a terrific accident on Gate 9 Road, and she's been dealing with that. She's in ICU in Little Rock with brain injury, but I'll check on that and see where we are on that. But that's part of the MPO, and like I said, we work with the RDOT and ODOT on their projects, and they update us every month where they are on all the projects here, Highway 45, Highway 22, what they're going to do on Towson and things like that. So it is a very good organization, and
They're planning on that, brought it just to the city limits of Greenwood, right?
I think so. And from what I understand, I don't know, somebody told me the other day that they're getting ready to pave from North Main all the way out, Howard Hill Road, all the way out there.
Yeah, they're going all the way up to, we'll go to 71, basically from North Main where it ends at the city.
Hopefully, they'll do some widening in that area, because you know, as well as I do, that's a dangerous trip with the bicycles and motorcycles
And
and
that's a state aid thing, just like we got for our project here. That's, the county got that project. So it'll be, I don't know if you've been back there, they built it up some more. So like Sonny said, hopefully it'll be wider now.
When's our projects getting started?
We're having our kickoff meeting next Tuesday. It worked out where they waited, thank goodness, till school was out.
Quick update on the Senior Citizen Center. Chief Brian went out
seen the plans that the county does.
last week. I can't remember what day we went out. I went out there with him. Hunter went, and we met with the folks that installed the suppression system along with electricians. There was 3 groups there, whether it's Stuart, Chief, or was it just the suppression folks? And
Suppression and electricians that were there.
okay. So unfortunately, they had not hit the punch list on that suppression system. There was still some things not finished, which Chief pointed out as he should. And it was even suggested from one of them, or asked of us, if we wanted to go ahead and hook it up and bypass or mess up our warranty. And I'd already told Chief, no, absolutely not. And Chief is not going to do that either. So that, fortunate, Mike is the contractor, Cody's contractor there. He wasn't there, but his son came in, and so he got to hear everything that was going on and the issues. Even though maybe kind of minor, they just have to be finished. They can't just not. They got to take care of that. So
I think they have some communication issues between Captain Air and electricians.
right. So it's
And
kind
one
of
electrician's got hurt and like almost lost some leg or something.
like herding cats,
But the electrician was there this weekend.
yeah, I went by there Saturday or Sunday. Well, I go by there every day almost. They were there working, so hopefully that's ready for another inspection very, very soon. And that's all we're lacking there. The street department has been kind enough to already haul some shelving out there, and Lisa has hauled her stuff out there, so we have that permission as long as we're not in or dwelling, I guess.
I heard somebody cleaned the oven out there.
Yours truly cleaned the oven out. It was a big deal. I was trying to make Danielle do it, and as you can imagine, she said absolutely not. So I went out there the other day and scrubbed the inside of the oven out. Because this is an oven that was left. We bought it with the building. So anyway, so there's that. It's coming along. And I try to keep those folks apprised of that. They're anxious.
Yeah.
Very anxious. Anything else for, yeah, Mr. Bob?
June 18th, 9 o'clock, groundbreaking of Sebastian County Library.
Nice. I was informed that today. That's awesome.
Great.
Will there be donuts? Donuts?
Donuts, that'll be up to Jim.
Jim Reynolds?
Yeah.
Okay. We're calling him, he's got 2 names now, Recycle Jim and Trolley Jim. So,
In regards to that, I mean, what is the plan for the hillside? I mean, I know Tractor Supply, did their kind of wall. I saw where they put the big rocks there at the very beginning. Is that the plan to have the kind of big rocks that way, or is there some type of plan there in place to?
I don't know.
For the wall.
I was pleasantly surprised to see those. That looks nice, those rocks. I don't know if he's going to do the whole thing, or I don't know. Do you know, Hunter?
Not the whole wall.
Okay.
He's using those large blocks as a retaining wall for the smaller portions.
Yeah.
And then we're getting a new grading plan submitted for a final grading elevation on the actual shell wall.
Okay.
So I'll know more shortly.
Okay.
When you say shell wall, I mean, is it a wall made out of shell then, or is it going to be like engineered blocks like Tractor Supply, or?
No, because it's just the actual mountainside that's there, the hard shell rock face. It doesn't have to be stabilized, but we're going to get some final grading elevations created for it, just to clean it up. What we're concerned about is the red clay and topsoil that's up above. The actual blue shell itself is not as much of a concern.
June, what'd you say? 18th. Yeah, I would encourage everybody to come to that. That'd be great. Be a big step.
Right here in front of us, here on Atlanta Street, and right there, Bell, Looked like there was some concrete poured to kind of, for that.
There was a water line break there, and so they had to take out the part of the curb in the street to fix that valve. And so water waited until school was out to pour it back last week because they had to close the road partially down for that. So
You said Bell.
Oh,
No,
Main.
yeah,
Main and
Bell and Atlanta Street right there.
Main
Main.
and El Paso.
Main.
No, I'm talking about right here,
That's
at
what I
the
thought.
post office. Looks like there's some
Oh.
concrete poured right there.
We were doing some that was us. We were doing some stabilization there on that, so that's what that was. I'll have to talk about that a little bit.
No, and what I was wondering is just back here, behind, in the little parking lot we have here, that where the water always builds up, I was wondering if that, I call it the northeast corner or whatever, if we could do it kind of like an open trench concrete, down to the creek there, because it just pools up right there and stuff.
We're talking right here in the front.
Right back here, this, there's like 4 or 5 parking spaces that are kind of right behind the fire station, but it all pulls up. I mean, you can see 7 right there in the corner, right there. I was wondering what it's going to take to kind of get an open concrete trench, kind of like, was poured there, to run all the way back to the creek.
Well, we've got some drainage problems that we're gonna try to fix. They start up here on Bell, so once they get done overlay, we're gonna come in and tear some of that out and go back and get it back there to the creek. So we'll try to worm our way that way to get that over.
Yeah, it just seemed like just a nice little open trench, like kind of like you did there, with the concrete, just so that where water could flow, wouldn't be, kind of, you just stopped up right there, and usually it's just even decent rain, it's about 3 or 4 inches, and at least up to the curb.
And the other overall plan is for the fence, the gate for our fence to be going east and west instead of north and south like it is. And so that will be part of that work as well when we make the change. So we're going to push the Connex back and the house back and all that stuff towards the fence.
Jeff, what was the decision to pour concrete instead of going back to asphalt on Main Street?
That's just the way they have done it.
That's the way Tim does.
His repairs.
Smooth.
Look, I mean, is it
Patched.
Yeah.
You can, is there a dye or something you can put in that to
Yeah, there is.
make that, you can't do it now. I kind of wondered myself, but I was just glad to see it, not a whole.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that you would cut square and replace it with an asphalt square. Or some kind of wood package.
Sometimes they pour that concrete up so high that because the soil is so unstable, concrete kind of spans, but they'll leave it short and then just asphalt square patch over the top of it.
Yeah.
Tim may have a better answer to it.
That's just how it turned out.
I know we're kind of already there, council forum, anything? It's 8:19. I say we go to 9.
No,
I thank everybody for being here. Thank you for a good meeting. We got a lot accomplished. Appreciate you in a short time. I would entertain a motion to.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Thank you all. That's my business.
oh, yeah, good night, Steve.
We're gonna be at the municipal.
I was just curious.
No, I remember, I just got busy.
Right about
I kept thinking, I didn't know it was gonna be here.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.